Well, I live in Moscow in Russia, so it's very much like New York City style living.
So, what does Christmas mean to you and to your family, and also to Russians versus Americans? Is there similarities? I, this is a good. Are we gonna keep it?
The biggest holiday, bigger than anything else, and it's called Christmas. It's named after Jesus.
Is there any presents on the Christmas Eve? The Santa Claus might be, and he gets more and more drunk as he go along. Which holidays, which Christmas do you prefer?
Wow, you're gonna get me in trouble.
What's up, guys? This is Igor in Russia, currently not in Russia, and I have a guest, the return of the great expat American. Hello.
Hey man, how you doing? What's up, guys? Good to see you on this holiday video.
Yes, we're gonna do an interesting video about Christmas in Russia from American perspective, and that's something unique stuff you've done. Also, people who don't know you, I think you should actually tell a little bit more about yourself. So lay the groundwork.
Yeah,
and let's get into it.
Yeah, so I'm an American. I married a Russian woman who was actually born in the Soviet Union, and we decided to move here with our 5 children, here being Moscow, Russia. I'm in Moscow, Russia suburbs right now with snow out the window and a holiday tree over my shoulder because it is, of course, the holiday season in the Western world and in Russia too. And we came here almost 2 years ago, 8 days before the special military operation. So I'm an American who, according to the West, is living behind enemy lines.
And I've seen, by the way, following your channel as well, actively, you're beginning to speak better and better Russian. That's why the few words you speak to your kids, they're getting longer, better, and pronunciation is better.
My wife will be very happy to hear that, because that is the most important thing she wants out of me, is to be able to speak Russian fluently. And actually, she was on another YouTuber's channel, someone with like 1 million subscribers, and they brought me in as the husband for a few minutes, and it's all in Russian. So they interviewed me all in Russian. She was very proud of me.
Even though it's a great opportunity for you, especially as a content creator, to actually be speaking English mostly, or making people speak English around you, but actually there's one thing that people who Russians act differently when they like around a foreigner, if it's underlined being a foreigner, you know. So as soon as you start to speak more Russian, you gotta actually in some ways get more out of them, because people speak their mind easily, you know. The barriers fall off, even though you might have a translator, your wife or whatever, but still it's different in this type of interactive world.
Course,
so yeah, that's for the future. Right now we enjoying your channel as it is. So Christmas is coming. I want to ask you, you're a religious man, right?
Yes, definitely.
So tell me, as an American, what's up with this Xmas and Christmas thing? Is that what's it all about? I sometimes wrote like channel name something about Christmas, and I wrote with an X just to make it sure, not intended to be anything political, you know. Does this refer to some things that's in America going on lately?
I have noticed that some people that are Christians are offended by the Xmas abbreviation. So is it a way to take Christ out of Christmas, or is it just an abbreviation? Because after all, Christ was put on a cross, and that is a cross. So, you know, I always took it as it's just an abbreviation. But I know for some Christians it's offensive. So I've actually gotten out of the habit of doing it myself, because the Bible says, you know, I think Paul talks about it. If you're with someone who is offended by eating meat, don't eat meat in front of them. So we need to be all things to all people, right?
Okay.
So if it bothers some people, then I won't do it.
And I come to Russia and film Russia from as a foreigner. I come from Finland, but I'm a Russian Orthodox. I'm a Russian speaker. That's my culture. So for your information, that I've been also just like you in Moscow, going to be having I guess. I'm not sure yet, but a Russian Christmas. But I'm also been celebrating Russian Christmas all my life, meaning it's on not on 24th, it's on 25th, 24th. It's on 7th of January because we Russian Orthodoxes have, is it Gregorian? Gregorian old timeline, or what you call it. So it's a bit different times and the same thing. So I actually might have some input to your comments as well.
Yeah.
But I've never celebrated Christmas in Russia, I think. Let us know a little bit family life in Russia, especially during this season, meaning coming closer to New Year and Christmas, which are both like very nearby.
Well, I live in Moscow in Russia, so it's very much like New York City style living. And if you haven't lived in either of those places, it's just going to be like what you might see in a movie. You know, one second. Don't blow your nose, Josiah. I'm on a stream.
This is a good. Are we gonna keep it? Yeah. And hello to Josiah.
Go to the other room, all right? If you have to blow your nose. I mean, the camera's definitely picking that up. I'm talking about Jesus, and you're snotting on the microphone.
Yeah, something New York, similar to Moscow.
Yeah, and what's amazing, and this is a theme on my show, is how the same everything is. I say it's like an alternate reality, like in a Marvel movie. It is different, but most of it is the same. So, you know, they're putting up trees, they're putting up decorations, they're selling more gifts and toys in the store. They have music that you only hear that time of year. You know, it starts happening mid-November and it ends mid-January. You know, the biggest difference is, you've said a couple of times Christmas. Some Russians would be offended at that. They would say it is not Christmas. They would say Christmas is the small religious holiday that happens in January. And this big thing that everyone does is their New Year celebration. Whereas in America, we call the big thing that happens for almost 2 months the Christmas celebration. And then in January is our smaller New Year's holiday. So that's the big distinction. It's more of a name classification and a date classification. The dates are off because, like you said, there are two different calendars the world uses. And most people in the West, they only know of the one calendar. And Russia has also switched to the other calendar, but not in everything, and not when it comes to these holidays.
Yeah, and basically, good that you pointed it out. It's basically the celebration season, holiday season, starts off with the New Year per celebration. Then all these days are off, free, or what you call it, not non-working days. I think 9 days, if I can remember, or longer.
It depends on where the weekend falls, right?
Yeah. And continues to the, of course, Christmas on the 7th. And then there's also a separately, which is even more for more religious people, basically the Orthodox New Year, which is on 13th. So basically but that's not as big as the Western New Year's Eve celebration. So what does Christmas mean to you and to your family, and also to Russians versus Americans? Is there similarities or differences? Basically, let's start off with the first question. What does a Christmas mean to your family?
So for my family, for my household, for me, because I'm a serious Christian, I've always looked at Christmas in a positive spiritual light. I've always been grateful for it. I know there are other Christians that are down on Christmas and they say, oh, it's been commercialized, and oh, it has satanic roots, and oh, it's not right, and it's all about gifts and stuff like that. And I think that is absolutely not a good attitude to have, because think about it. If you consider yourself a Christian and you want to spread the story of Jesus, you have in the Western world the most famous holiday, the biggest holiday, bigger than anything else. And it's called Christmas. It's named after Jesus. You know, you've got the entire Western world agnostics, atheists, willingly celebrating this holiday for almost 2 months. And again, the Bible says, there are people that are doing things in the name of Jesus not quite correctly, and they're trying to stop it. And they're told, no. If they're going to say something in Jesus' name, just let them say it. So as Christians, if you consider yourself a Christian, Christmas time is a great opportunity where people are willing to hear about Jesus, and I wouldn't knock that or be disappointed in that at all. So for me, it's always a renewed, faith time and a time to reflect on Jesus more. And it's just all around me, like I'm in a great opera, just the lights and the stories and the decorations and everything. And so that's what it has meant to me. In Russia, of course, I know the meaning is different, because the Soviet Union ended recently, and the Soviet Union was a governmental system that did not include religion, let's say, right? So their New Year's celebration, which is in place of the Christmas celebration, it does not have any spiritual meaning from what I understand. This is always on my show, and right now I'm telling you what I've been led to believe, and people can comment, please, and let me know if I'm wrong. But this is what I've been led to believe. So the main reason why I think it's different is because you had 70 years of the Soviet Union where they made it different because they didn't want it to have a religious connotation. That's
so many beautiful churches, thousands of churches, cathedrals blown up and destroyed.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is absolutely horrible.
So is the Christmas celebrations in America somehow more capitalistic? Is it has it gone away from the original idea or not? Or what does Christmas mean to Americans compared to what you just said?
I think
in Russia.
Again, I think it's the same. It is capitalistic, but it certainly looks capitalistic in Moscow to me too. I think these are two countries that are majority agnostic, meaning they don't think about God that much one way or the other. And I think that in Russia, they are encouraging traditional family values. So I think Russia's leaning towards Christianity, and America is encouraging not having traditional family values. So they are leaning against or away from, let's say, Christianity.
Except when it's beneficial to refer to God.
Yeah.
In other ways.
Right.
Just by watching the American politicians, God is used when it's beneficial to the speech or to the point. I don't know.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. And it still says on the money, "In God we trust," right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And Trump made a big number out of the word Christmas, being added back to the word Christmas. I don't know. Is it just? I don't know. But maybe that tells something that some people might think that it's gone away from the original intended plan or whatever.
Right.
So you mentioned preparations in Moscow, and what kind of preparations for Christmas or New Year's? I always say Christmas, but in Russia you have to remember, like we just started it off like that. That it's actually New Year plus the Christmas combo. But I just say Christmas. So what's the preparations like in Moscow for Christmas? Starting off from mid-November. You mentioned Christmas trees. That's one of the things, but what would you add more?
Well, all the stores are decorated. People who have time are slowly decorating their houses. You've got Christmas music, holiday type music on, music that people are sentimental about. You see people watching Soviet films more, like Soviet comedies. They're very sentimental about that. Just like in America, we might watch old movies from the 50s about Christmas time. And I think, if someone is not familiar with America, they're wondering, what is Christmas? What's it like? I think the comedy A Christmas Story is a great example of, I guess, the stereotypical vision of what an American would like Christmas to be. So you can go ahead and look that up. I know that for America, the holidays are kind of a triple deal. where you have Halloween in October, you have Thanksgiving in November, and you have Christmas in December. And, you know, Halloween's at the end of October, Thanksgiving's at the end of November almost, Christmas is at the end of December almost. And it's kind of packaged and sold in stores as kind of, you know, it's kind of one big long 3-month party, and the theming changes for each month. And so that's a big difference, because in Russia, well, Russians don't like Halloween. I mean, they in general, they seem to be afraid of Halloween. Like it's a satanic evil thing. I can understand that perspective. If I didn't grow up with Halloween, it would also concern me, I think. I think if you're going to look at the other side, the idea of Halloween is you're teaching children about death. You know, at a young age, so that it's not so scary.
I agree.
As they grow up. And also, you know, Halloween started, I think, in Ireland because native Celts were legitimately afraid of monsters in the forest, of which I'm sure there were, you know, animals that could kill you. And so I think it started, I believe, from a pure heart, and hopefully it's implemented now with a pure heart. And, you know, for Russians that get too wound up about Halloween, I would say that you guys have a witch as part of your New Year holiday fairy tale character celebration. So not that much different.
Is it Soviet, by the way? Is it from the Soviet times? That would be interesting thing. Or is it pre-Soviet?
What?
The witch.
Baba Yaga? I don't know.
Baba Yaga.
Maybe someone can let us know in the comments.
Yeah. Comment down below.
There's no Thanksgiving at all, you know, because Thanksgiving is about Americans being grateful that they had enough fruit and a fruitful life to survive the winter and survive this new territory that they're setting up in America.
Yeah, immigrant celebration.
Right.
Yeah. How do Russians celebrate Christmas? Like, what's the most memorable issues? Have you celebrated any yet to actually know this?
Yeah. I mean, I came here as a tourist years ago for the holidays and spent my holidays here, and we rented a flat in an old building off of Arbat for almost a week off of old Arbat Street, and we had a view of, you know, Stalin's tower out the window, and it was off of a balcony, and then we had another view, if you look the other way, of New Moscow City. And the Christmas lights, the holiday lights were everywhere. And, you know, I walked out in the cold with Aurora and my adult daughter, and we bought a Christmas tree, just like you might in a movie or in a New York City film. And it was over my shoulder, and I was walking down the busy street to get it back to my flat and set it up. And we were there for, you know, almost a week, and we had presents under the tree and all that stuff. The big difference
was it on New Year's or Christmas, the presents?
Okay, good question. That's what I was just about to say. So Russians have their presents opened, I believe, on New Year's morning. So and their New Year's celebration starts New Year's Eve and can go all night long. And so it's kind of like a Thanksgiving feast with your family and maybe some of your close friends, and you're up all night, and you might have some little fireworks. And I made note, as far as food, it's similar type of food, but the main difference is Russians have Olivier salad, which is like a potato salad, but with chicken chunks in it.
Might have chicken chunks, might have sausages. Or might be vegetarian.
Right.
I love Olivier. I love it.
And they have this. They do not have stuffing. So Americans have what's called stuffing, which is like baked bread chunks and vegetables and mushrooms and liver pieces that are stuffed inside the turkey and baked inside the turkey. You can bake it separately, but traditionally it's baked inside the turkey. That's very tasty. I miss that, because that's not really a thing here. And then Russians have pineapples and mandarins to eat, which Americans don't have, especially living in Florida. That, to me, that's like, what? Why? I'm in Florida. We have that all the time. It's winter time. We're supposed to have snow. We don't have snow. We're not bringing out the tropical fruit for our holiday meal. But Russians have it. I believe because it's so cold all the time.
I would like to add to this Mandarin story.
Yes, please.
Because in the Soviet Union where I lived, I was from Soviet Union. This Mandarin thing is because the Mandarins weren't like in stores maybe the same way it's nowadays in Russia or in America. So that's why Mandarin, I associate Christmas time, New Year's Eve to Mandarin taste. And very often when I can smell the Mandarin throughout the year, sometimes I get the feeling of Christmas because of this, with my nostalgia. And pineapple, I heard it from my wife. We never had pineapple on our Christmas table, New Year's Eve table, but I heard about it actually today, that yes, also pineapple, and they just cut it on the table. But that's, I think, might have to do with the Soviet Union and Mandarins not being available throughout the year. So that's why it's a feast celebration. Maybe something like that.
Interesting.
And presents on the New Year morning. Is there any presents on the Christmas Eve?
So in America, the tradition is Santa Claus comes on the night of December 24th, Christmas Eve, while all the children are sleeping. And he comes down the chimney, hopefully you have one, and he puts presents under the tree. And then when the kids wake up the morning of December 25th, they open their presents. And this happens for the kids if the kids have been good. So this
sounds like you're speaking to your kid.
What's that?
It sounds like you're actually speaking to your kid. If they are good.
So listen up, Christoph. So when I'm with Russians and they open up their presents New Year's Eve sometimes, I'm like, wait, what? How can you do that? They weren't brought yet, And so when I grew up and with my kids in America, we might open one present Christmas Eve and we might have some presents under the tree that are from mom and dad. And then you bring out more presents while the kids are asleep that, let's say, Santa Claus has brought, or Santa Claus actually comes and he brings those gifts for us.
Yes, and I know in Russia, you actually, some families actually order a Santa Claus to come by into the house for the kids and, do a little show. They sit on his lap, maybe sing a little bit, I don't know, something like that. And for us grown-ups, that sometimes in Russia, the Santa Claus might be, he's offered in every place that he goes to, he's offered a little bit of drinks, like vodka, and he gets more and more drunk as he go along. There's even movies about it.
He's going from house to house, making money, doing house calls.
Yes, and also like getting some drinks as he go along. And there's a funny movies and jokes about it.
It makes sense, because my wife has told me that families will hire Ded Moroz, which is the Russian version of Santa Claus, which some Russians say is a completely different character, and I understand what they mean. He does have a different backstory. And his granddaughter, Snegurichka, who also has a separate backstory, but the Soviets put them together. And the idea, and not the idea, but you would hire them to come visit. Whereas in America, that does not happen by and large. That's not typical. In America, you're going to a shopping mall, and people have probably seen this in American movies, and you're waiting in line, and then you sit on his lap, and they take a photo, and you tell him what you want for Christmas. Yeah,
I've seen, what was the movie? Bad Santa. Also. Oh, yeah. That's a whole different story. But we jumped to the last question about Santa and Father Frost, Ded Moroz. And one thing is different. You basically answered already, but one thing is different also, the clothing. Santa Claus is very like Coca-Cola-ish, red and white, and that type of stuff. And Father Frost is more like... I guess he looks, it's taken influence from the Orthodox clergy clothing, because they're like very similar. And he's like, he looks more like a ruler, where Santa Claus is maybe more like a dedushka, like a granddad.
Yeah, well, I mean, I definitely want to address this and talk about this and say what I think. And I
please do.
See what people have to say in the comments. Because I'm a Christian and because I'm a father, I find a very interesting topic. So,
Yes.
I'll try and be brief. So basically, you have Christianity a long time ago, and you have this guy named Nicholas. And he apparently was a wealthy guy. I think he lived in what is now Turkey, somewhere in there. And you stop me if I'm wrong. And I believe he went through a Holocaust of some kind where a lot of people died. And he was sainted because he was a very giving person. And the legend goes he would like throw gold through the windows, bags of gold through the windows of poor families for children. And over time, this became a myth of Saint Nicholas. Kris Kringle, I think especially was a big deal in German culture. And I think because Martin Luther, who was a German, kind of helped turn it into more of a holiday for kids to inspire kids. And I think that he also started the Christmas tree, where you bring a tree in from outside. Which I think had pagan roots. A lot of these things have pagan roots because there were pagan holidays around this time from like the Roman Empire. And I believe the church, whether it be Catholic or Orthodox, or maybe it was all the same thing back then, I'm not sure. In an effort to wipe out the pagan holidays, they made this holiday time, or this Christmas time, at this time in the dead of winter, because they wanted to kind of push out the pagan holidays, because people argued, well, Jesus wasn't born in winter. And they were like, well, that's okay. We want to celebrate it now anyway, right? And so it's transformed into, Santa Claus giving gifts. But when the Soviet Union started, they didn't want a religious holiday. And so they found a fairy tale character that they had of a guy who looked like Santa Claus similarly, but he was actually, from what I understand, a bad guy character. And they kind of adjusted him. He was like a forest wizard, someone more like Gandalf than Santa Claus. And so that's why he appears to be taller and slimmer and more often wears blue, whereas Santa more often wears red. People like to argue these are completely different characters. And I understand, because their backstory, you can definitely make that case. But as
the
a Christian,
idea is the same.
What I would say is both of these characters fill the same role in society, and that is what? When you are a little child and you don't know anything yet, and you can't understand the idea of God, you are taught that there is a kind, old, wealthy man who, if you are good, he will give you gifts. So you are being trained before you are able to understand the concept of God, that you need to perform a certain way for a God-type character. So I think in that way, these are the same character. These are the same people. They're performing the same function in society. And that's something that as Christians, we should embrace and feel excited about. If I'm right. If I'm wrong, hopefully people will let me know in the comments.
Comment down below if you're more knowledgeable. But you know where Saint Nicholas is exactly how he originally was. In Russian Orthodox Church, Nikolai Chudotvorets, Nikolai it's Saint Nicholas in Russian Orthodoxy. There is a very popular saint. So I think he's the same person as this as the original Santa Claus, but he's not in the Santa Claus role. He's just a saint.
Yes,
I might be wrong as well. Comment down below. Too much information. Anyway, hey, last question. Very simple. Which holidays, which Christmas do you prefer, if you can compare the two? Or can you make such a distinction?
Wow, you're going to get me in trouble with with all my Russian friends and subscribers. I've only been here for less than 2 years. I still have American Christmas on my heart, I would say. But the differences are so slight, it doesn't bother me. I actually didn't do Halloween or Thanksgiving this year because I'm just busy, and if no one else is doing it, it's kind of hard to get in the mood. I mean, we'll watch Halloween type movies a little bit, not horror movies, but just stuff that's like kid fun, like E.T. and things like that. And we did go to a Thanksgiving event for Americans, but we didn't really get to celebrate it. So we're quickly falling out of the American traditions and falling in line with what the Russians do over here.
I think that's fine because the American traditions are falling on the world so much through the pop culture. So I guess that would be fine if it's in some places something else happens. I want to thank you a lot for joining and tell us more from American perspective about the Christmas in Russia. Once again, it's a great honor to have you. And like we say in Russia, с Новым годом, с Рождеством.
Thanks so much, Igor, for having me. And guys, come over to my channel and watch Igor, where I have a new interview and we talk about something completely different, Igor and I. It's a fascinating topic.
And of course, subscribe to Expat American. You can click on the name in the title or in the description and watch all of his great videos from the life in Russia. All right, I see you soon. I hope in Moscow.
You got it, man. See you soon.
All right, see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.